Hash Rugby Chat in this form. Because actually, did you know Hash Rugby Chat lasted for 100 weeks, or 102 weeks I think it was, as a Twitter chat. So there you go. A little bit of trivia for you there. But this week we'll be talking about the craziness of the African conference craziness. We'll also talk a bit about drugs, because, hey, Arthur needs them for his back.
Yeah.
And we'll also talk about just Super Rugby in general is going to be the main one this weekend. Like my Lions themed socks on there, just for those of you who can. You don't normally get to see the whole of me. This one gets to my face, and I'm looking at the wrong place. I need to look up the camera, so it looks like I'm actually looking at you. So, good evening, Archie. How are you doing?
I am very sleepy, but you know that.
I know that, yes.
I'm very sleepy. I just woke up an hour, or not even an hour, 40 minutes ago.
You did? Oops,
just for the show. Just for the show. For you people out there.
There we go. Oh, actually, maybe it's just because you haven't got the full screen up. That's why. Sorry, we're on TV as well, which is good.
So we can see what people are saying.
That's right, exactly. So wow, he's gone full screen of me. Wow, I'm famous now, being on screen. I don't want to do what the Maul Over podcast did, which was spend a whole hour talking about no rugby. I spent a good half hour just on believe in a Poland and homophobic comments.
And we're not
going to go there.
Are we?
No.
Why not? Because we have different views on that.
Do we?
Yeah, absolutely we do.
Oh, go on then. Give us your view.
Well, I don't see he didn't do anything wrong.
He
hasn't done anything wrong. I don't think people are actually, when you go back to the Israel Folau thing as well, people actually aren't analysing what they said. They're taking their view of what was said. And with the Bully Filipino, remember I woke up 40 minutes ago, and I'm still half asleep. They're not analysing what he said. They're getting their own view of what he said, and then getting, as we do in this day and age, I should say we loosely because I don't, but getting upset about what somebody said, because that's what people want to do, is be upset and about what people said. Outrage.
Now, so if you're a Patreon, you'll have seen me do a video last week. Did you watch it?
Oh no, I haven't, because I just haven't had a chance. Because I've been on holiday, that's why I'm sleepy.
You have, yes. Which means you've been doing way more than you would do when you're not on holiday.
Yeah, I know, the irony of it.
Anyway,
yes.
So I did a piece last week about the fact that basically sport for my patrons, talking about our rugby players' role models, and the answer basically is, whether you like it or not, they get paid to be basically walking billboards and to represent brands. So hence, now I know that some people say, look, they're just sportsmen. Well, unfortunately, they don't actually get paid for doing sports. They get paid for having brands all over them. It just happens the best way to get people to look at them is by doing sports.
Yeah. But then they have to. I think that needs to be clarified to them. But on one hand, we say that, so that's what the owners want. And it's interesting, because I think having a conversation just on a non-rugby topic with somebody today, I think it might have been our sixth Steve, about another matter, and the fact is that I think owners more and more of sports teams, especially as its owners, are starting to see exactly what Paul said in terms of that. It's not about actually winning a championship, to tell you the truth anyway. It's actually about making money. Money! And so therefore they are just a product. So the rugby player's a product. We as a fan, well, a lot of fans actually complain, players are so robotic and they don't say anything. Well, if we're agreeing with what Paul's saying, then that's what you're going to get, as a robotic rugby player that's not allowed to say anything, because he can't have any personal views about anything.
Well,
unless that's what the owner wants him to say.
Well, it's not very much. Well, it's owner and the sponsors, but
it's not the sponsors really. It's the owner, because the owner has the ability to go to the sponsor saying, "Well, no, he's allowed to have his personal views on a matter," and yeah.
But then the sponsor
can walk.
Yeah.
So there's options there. So it's not. I don't think it's. I think it still actually comes down to the owner. And I mean, obviously, with the Australian Rugby Union, they're not really an owner, but they're still in that same role.
So it's kind of interesting to see. So someone like Nigel Owens and I've gone blank.
Gareth Thomas.
and having their opinion on it as
Yep.
obviously they're seeing it from that side, which unlike myself, not being in that sort of pitch situation. Now, I'm not actually. I've only read reports of what they said and actually gone into. I've not actually not actually read those articles, but
Gareth Thomas and Nigel Owens.
Yeah. But yeah, there are vulnerable people who will be influenced by those comments.
No, I'm not going to buy that because he's vulnerable. We're also focusing on. He mentioned a group of people, and we're focusing on one. So if we was about worrying about vulnerable people and not just being outraged for the sake of being outraged, we would be mentioning the fact of the vulnerable people are in those other categories as well. And in fact, the reality is that in one of the other categories in particular, there's more vulnerable people than the one that people are focused on and been outraged about.
So which one are you?
Oh, basically about being drunks and the like. So a drunk person is going to be a hell of a lot more vulnerable than somebody who's just coming out, because there's a hell of a lot more of them. Because a lot of people that drink are actually in a genuine vulnerable position. A lot of depression amongst straight men is around. It coincides with alcoholism as well.
Yes, but I don't think a lot of people won't necessarily relate or see themselves as necessarily an alcoholic, and I don't think they would take his comments to mean they are personally.
Hang on. We're making an assumption that an alcoholic isn't taking on anything that he's saying about them going to hell. But we're taking an assumption that a gay, lesbian, or bisexual or transsexual person's going to take on what he's saying about them going to hell. That can't equate. It doesn't equate when you actually just look at it instead of being outraged. When you look at it on a factual basis in terms of hang on. Well, how can one group be affected and not the other?
Because they are in different different stages of life and different. The big groups can be different, and we hear from people who have come out of the struggles they've gone through and how the public utterances of people have impacted them.
Yep.
So we know it does.
Okay. So what we've got there is the fact is that we've actually got situations where people have come out and spoken about coming out and the pressures and problems coming out. And what do we have in depression? We have problem with depression in men, and men just don't say anything. So we don't understand what the drivers are. We don't understand what the societal pressures are on the men, because people don't have men coming out and telling them how society is affecting them. Men just don't talk. And so that's the thing, is that we, without knowing what men, because let's face it, societal pressure is one of the major factors on depression. Expectations around how people should perform, what they should be doing, is huge. What do we talk about? We talk about how social media, Facebook, is building a false world that people see their friends or family having fantastic lives and their one sucks. And that's the type of pressures that are coming on. So to say that we know about a gay person coming out and knowing that the pressure, absolutely we do, because you're right, people have come out and spoken about them. But what we don't know is the men in depression who are straight, and what's impacting them and how what in life's affecting them.
Okay, so all right, so maybe, and he said we don't know.
Yep.
Maybe there are two groups that actually were that actually been.
No, more than two groups, because he mentioned a whole bunch of groups, so we don't know across all those groups how people are affected, and we're making assumptions.
We are, but we do know that in that we know in the group that has caused outrage, that in that one, I mean other ones. So the were listed were adultery, which is considered illegal and generally wrong. The idolaters, which a lot of people are kind of like, what the hell does that even mean?
What is that anyway? You have to Google it. You have to Google what the hell is that?
So anyway, hi Pierce, thanks for joining us. I think what Flowers done is wrong, and I can understand why he's been punished. Now, the Billy Villafolo one, where he's liked something, and then had a whole bunch of people phone him up and say, you shouldn't like that. And it's like, well, and then he chose to come out and say, what he said, which was basically that, look, I've been brought up with certain beliefs. At some point, you stand by those. So by implication, he's had those other things. He hasn't actually come out and said those specifically. Which is very different.
Yeah, I'm really struggling. I'm really struggling with this basically vilification of being a Christian. Basically, I'm really struggling with it because the fact is that it's just really harsh on. And the reality is, when you look at the percentage of rugby players these days, and I saw somebody make a comment just on Facebook about the numbers actually. In terms of Polynesian players, and when you start to look at most of these Polynesian players, they have a Christian background, and you're starting to vilify a truckload of Christians that are in the game on their beliefs.
Let's two, I guess, a couple of things there. One, it's not all Christians by any stretch, right? Because the Pope has come out and said actually that he's about being
gay,
tolerant about. No, I don't think. Well, I don't think he's come out and said he's actually gay as such.
Oh no! I'm saying he's saying, but you know.
But he's basically look, the church isn't anti-gay as it used to be.
Yep, as it used to be.
Yeah. And this is the thing.
Yep.
We are going through at the moment a period of change. Now there's a whole bunch. Green Gold Rugby did a good one where there's a whole bunch of things that historically have been okay. Back in history have been okay in the Bible and amongst Christian faiths that now aren't okay, and it changes now. So this idea that everything is stuck in stone isn't entirely true. So things like being able to be married to multiple people, that we decided isn't a religious freedom we're going to allow, and there are other ones.
To multiple people after one at a time.
No, multiple at the same time.
No. That's the law. That's the law in many countries, and the fact that you can't have bigotry.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that there are Christian groups that think that actually polygamy, rather than bigotry, that polygamy is okay. Now, but we've decided as a society that actually
the term wrong, sorry.
that religious freedom or religious choice, we're not going to allow. Now, it's a matter of there isn't this idea that you have religious freedom and freedom of speech and all this kind of stuff is not true. We don't have entirely total religious freedom. It's as a society we have agreed that certain ones are okay and certain ones aren't, and we are going through a period of cultural change at the moment that says that this is one that within Western society, and we consider Western society to be progressive or ahead of others, which is more because Western society forces their opinion on everyone else rather than because they are necessarily more progressed than them. But we are going through a cultural change. We have got to put, as you say, a whole bunch of people who have been brought up in a society which doesn't have the same values as Western society, and then move into that society and are getting judged by them, and it's very difficult for those people.
Yeah, I think. I suppose we know that we're going to agree to disagree on this.
Yep.
The reality is that I think, as I said, globally there is this this view, or not view. It's not a view. This anti-Christian or beliefs coming more prevalent, and that being forced upon Christians. When we actually analyse other religions and how they're strengthening and how they're actually fortifying their beliefs as well, they're not softening on that. So that's the thing, and that's why I come back to it. There's a massive sort of anything a Christian says gets banged on because that's wrong. I mean, if you look at when Billy Vilipono and Israel Folau, when they've come out and people ridiculing them for believing in a magic guy. And that sort of joking and that, and it's just like, to me, that's hate. That's hate just as much as they hate. That's hate. You're actually what makes us think? What makes us better and think that by ridiculing somebody about their beliefs, that's not making them feel belittled and making them feel small, and them feel like they need to go hide in the corner. And it's just like, I think a lot of people act and say comments and think that they're better than that next person without realising they're no better than that next person because they're actually delivering hate on that person as well. And let's face it, social media is a cesspit of hate. It doesn't matter which way. It's just like the way that communication goes on in all social media, it's the levels, is the fact is it's hate against each other.
Okay. I'll talk about social media in a second. The fan jumping out, pointing at and confronting Billy Vunipola was wrong. I think the best thing would have been. I mean, I personally don't think he should have been made the man of the match. That was a bad choice by Austin Healey and added fuel to fire that we just did not need. He just needed to go quiet for a few weeks, let things die down, and say he is not personally. Advocating anti LGBTI actions in this life. He's just saying how he believes you will be judged in the next life. So look, let's move on. I think let's move on. let that one quieten down.
I didn't realize there was a react. I mean, I didn't know that he got man of the match either. But the whole managed match and reaction.
Oh, he got man of the match,
and then obviously a bit of a roasting after that as well.
Then obviously they obviously got the on-pitch interview, which then asked one question about it, and then the BT got accused of giving him a platform to justify his position and all of this. It's that bit all just went out of control and is beyond where it should be. But anyway, whereas in the opposite position is where Fleur's been warned against this, and it's an employment issue. And basically, he's been told not to do it. He's done it, and
and actually, So moving on to something we probably agree with, it's more ineptitude by the Australian Rugby Union by not actually putting something into his contract stating that.
Well, we'll see because.
That's what's coming out. Is the fact is that the rumours coming out is that. There's a catch-all statement in the players' agreement, but that's more about bringing the game into disrepute rather than the opportunity that they had to put the specific statement in to his contract about, reining in what he says in social media.
Except there is a union, the players' union.
The players' union
has an agreed standard contract that all the players sign. They're not allowed to.
They haven't. Sorry, did you say they haven't?
They have.
Standard contract. Yep.
RA. Between RA and the players' union, who agreed a standard players' contract.
Yep.
And the RA is not allowed to deviate from that.
Right.
So hence they're not allowed to put a clause in around this. What they can do though is say within this catch-all section,
sure,
we have had a word with you already.
Yeah.
We've told you what this catch-all section means. You've said you won't do it.
Yeah.
We have that agreement. Next time we're going to tribunal.
Yeah,
and that's where they're at.
Right. So basically, you would assume that they documented that. There would have been a written warning type thing. And when you go through an HR process in any company, you'd have HR come in, and sit down, and they take the minutes, for want of a term, and this is what was said.
Yep.
And we're hoping that they've got that.
Well,
it is Rugby Australia.
We will have to wait and see. But that's supposed to be happening. Oh, it happened yesterday.
Oh, did it?
I'm pretty sure.
But I've been.
Hang on, no. Sorry, wrong. No, it's happening this Saturday. That's right.
Okay. We are around the Easter holidays. We are trying to figure out what day it is.
No, it's on Sunday. Is his Saturday is his hearing, and they've allocated Sunday in case it takes longer than a day.
Oh, yeah.
Now we know that certain Christians don't do stuff on Sundays. Oops.
Yeah.
But hey, at least it's all. I mean, Israel Flower does plan.
That's not being considerate to your employees.
So anyway, that has been brought up as already being a kind of oops.
Oops, anyway, I've done it again.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens this coming weekend on that one.
Alrighty,
dear me.
We'll move on then.
We shall move on.
We'll move on
because we know that this show is an inclusive show. I even let him on.
Hey, I'm going to sleep now.
Yeah, you can do. Drugs testing. Let's do some drugs.
Yeah, but the drugs don't work. They just make things worse.
Absolutely. And one player has found that out over in the UK. Oops, that's not the page I was looking for.
These are not the droids you are looking for.
No, they're not. I've forgotten what his name is now. One of the Cell Sharks players has got done twice for recreational drugs. And in the UK, the RFU have got two sets of doping standards. They have, where was I on that one? They have that the standard WADA or World Anti-Doping Authority. Anyway,
Yeah, that's close enough. WADA.
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 I'm trying to think what the last A is. Yes, maybe it is authority. Anyway,
I'll Google it.
Rules that the UK Anti-Doping or UCAD enforce, but then they also have a second set of rules which is around player welfare, and so that's about basically not taking cocaine on the whole, but basically recreational drugs as well. Now he's been called out twice on this guy Jake Pope has been caught twice for the illicit drugs policy, rather than so he's going to find himself banned under that one. What the RFU do though, which I think is the right thing to do, is they put in a whole bunch of rehabilitation things. It's not like he's banned and thrown out into the gutter to basically just take more as he spirals down into
downwards
into whatever. Yes. So that's good, but they do. They do that. What I really kind of found interesting about this, and the article that I'm talking about on the BBC looks at the number of samples taken, and in the UK, 288 samples were collected from 528 players that appeared in the Premiership. So 288, 528. So basically about 0.6 of a test per player, which basically means that there are, assuming that each player only gets tested once, then there were 240 players who didn't even get tested each year, which isn't a massive deterrent when we're talking about. And you've got to remember that of those 288 samples, some of them were for illicit drugs, some of them were for performance-enhancing drugs as well. So you've got to say, at the moment, I'm not convinced that the safeguards, the deterrents are there in place to stop players from taking performance-enhancing drugs. And the one thing about the RFU is at least they are transparent, and they produce a report once a year which shows you how many tests they've done and they compare it over the last 5 years or so. The other unions don't even do that, so we have no idea how many New Zealand Rugby Union, for example, does.
So they're not coming out there and publicly saying what sort of testing and the process they have, really, effectively, are they?
Who?
The other unions.
The other unions, yeah. No. So at least we can cast some sort of judgment on the RFU. We can't for the others. And that's really one of the problems that we... and we've had accusations. None of them came to anything, especially in France. But I think one of the things I've always found is that they always talk about, when they're playing a top 14 side, how big the scrums are and how big the players are. And you're like, every year you talk about how big the teams are compared to us, but no one ever suggests that maybe there's a reason for this, other than they play a slower brand of rugby.
Well, to be fair, I suppose it's, they do actually go around select. A lot of the French teams seem to go around selecting big players, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
hiring big players. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like when they go around globally, they're looking for a big props, big locks, big back row. The backs they don't seem to be too fussed on, but when they're looking at the packs, they seem to have biggest best. Yeah, probably. They've got a checklist that's how big is the dude.
Yep. So that may be a factor in it. I would just say, that whilst I'd like to think that the rugby union is clean at the professional level, I personally have my doubts, having been a cycling supporter, a cycling fan for many years. So to me, it just doesn't make sense. So for example, if you take steroids, you keep 25% of the extra body mass that you gained by being on, or muscle mass, sorry, by being on those drugs when you come off them. So obviously, if you're coming off them, you're not as advantaged as you were when you were on them. but you're still advantaged against not going on in the first place. So if you can find yourself a window of 2 months where you're not going to get tested, feel free to take them for a week or so, and then you flush them out your system, do an all-over body wax, so there's no hair samples, and off you go.
Yep.
So yeah, to me, it's unfortunate. I would like there to be more testing. I'd like there to be more transparency around this. I'd like our professional media to ask some of these questions a bit more, but they do know if they ask these questions, basically they're not going to be given a press pass again, which is sad.
It's a tricky one, all right. I think I'd like to see more testing done as well. I'm skeptical of a lot of players running around in their and how they've all of a sudden sort of burst onto the scene after being sort of average journeyman for so long, and then they've matured, and they've become a great rugby player in the last season, sort of thing. So that's
Anyway,
Andre's made a good couple of points. That's why so many South Africans playing in France, because generally speaking, so there's a lot of big South Africans, isn't there? That and they sort of disappear and they end up in France. I mean, from our point of view, they disappear because we know this is like you're watching one of the Super Rugby teams from South Africa playing. And hey, where's that player gone? That's all you think. You don't actually because you don't follow it. We don't follow it as closely, I suppose, in the player movements to know that they've all gone to South Africa.
That's just France, I mean. But look,
France, sorry.
At the end of the day, trying to follow. I mean, so currently we have on the go. We have Super Rugby, obviously, because we're going to talk about it in a second. We've got the Pro 14. We've got the Gallagher Premiership. We've got the Top 14. So that's basically so obviously England, France, those last two. We've got Major League Rugby. We've got we don't actually have the top league at the moment. So we've got 5 full-time professional leagues going on, and trying to keep track of what is around about 60 to 70 teams is pretty much impossible. So, yeah. Oh, I forgot to talk about the cost of testing. Each test costs between £700 and £1,000, which is just crazy expensive. So no wonder they can only afford so many changes. So
if they did more, it might get cheaper. Get bulk.
But
bulk purchase.
We're talking about $208. We're talking about over £250,000 has been spent on those samples, and we know that basically the unions aren't rich. The RFU is having to sack people and cut costs, and they're supposed to be the richest union in the world.
RFU, yeah.
So if they're struggling to find the odd $250,000 here or there, then it's clearly it's going to be difficult for other unions. I mean, trying to ask Georgia to run or trying to ask Fiji to run a sophisticated drug testing program.
Yeah,
that ain't going to happen. They just haven't the cash for it at the end of the day. So yes, that cost. Is
I think realistically speaking, for rugby, if it was going to be done, it has to be done at a global level, world rugby level, effectively.
Yep. Which basically means, are the unions prepared to say no? We won't take quite so much cash, and off we because that's all going to go towards drug testing. We'll have unlikely. So anyway, so that's that thing. We've had 2 pretty down topics so far.
Yeah.
So
let's go for a trifecta.
Let's go for a trifecta and let's talk about how gamblers are losing lots of money. So one of the things I've started doing this season, which I've not, which is someone asked me, Paul, how good are your predictions? And so I thought, how do I prove whether my predictions are good or bad? And so hence I decided to put $2 on every single Super Rugby game, basically. And if you want to know how that's going, you can become a Patreon. Link down below in the notes. You can become a supporter, and I detail it out there, every single bet and every single where all the money's going. One of the people I talked to before this is a guy who runs a gambling show, a YouTube show in South Africa, and I said, look, is this sensible? And he went, no, it's not.
What you're doing.
What I'm doing. He said, no, your chances of making any profit out of it is pretty slim. So that's like, okay, cool.
But then we weren't doing it to make a profit.
Exactly. So yes, but it's interesting.
Which makes it even worse for us. But
yeah, it makes it even more stupid. Yay. Now you see, if you want to know the best way of doing things, i.e., what is best industry practice, ask me. I'll tell you. And actually, I detail that again to my supporters when I'm drawing back the curtains. Articles I do on Patreon. But I know what the rules are. I know what best practice is. I just tend to knowingly not follow it. So like these shows, for example.
Well, yeah.
But there's a good reason why I don't. Anyway, so one of the so he's been following the stats, and he said he put a tweet out earlier this week, and I've forgotten what his name is now. It's the something or other. Anyway, I've retweeted him, so that's enough acknowledgement. But he's gone through and looked at all of the games involving African Conference. So basically, the Lions, the Sharks, the Stormers, the Bulls, and the Jaguares. Any game that involves them. It's not just between them, but games involving them and the other teams in Super Rugby. 50% of those games have been won by the home side, 50% by the away side. 50% of those games have been won by the favourites, 50% have been won by the underdogs. Any game involving someone from the Africa Conference is effectively a coin flip. Because the favourite, it's totally random. The favourite is as likely to win as the underdog, which is just crazy. So it's just, what is going on in South Africa? Have you got a clue?
No. No. Well, especially when the Reds go and tip up the Sharks on the weekend, and they're just like, what is going on? Yeah. WTF, why the face? I was just like, that is just absolutely bizarre. I mean, and we've got Andre in the chat room at the moment, who obviously, he's South African, and he likes still staying in touch with what's going on back home, and yeah, it's Mickey Mouse season in terms of picking games over there.
So a couple of things are going on, I think, and Andre. So thank you to Andre. Andre is the Super Sports Rugby Challenge is kicking off in South Africa this weekend, and Andre is doing the picks for that on DrivingMaul.com. So pop over there and check that out. That's basically the next tier below Super Rugby in South Africa, where all the all the development teams play against each other. So give that a read, and you can join my Super Brew picking league competition if you want to as well. So there are a couple of things going on. One, absolutely rubbish coaching. If you look at the teams, such as I end up in a bit of a Twitter argument.
Yeah. You ended up in a Twitter argument?
Yeah, I tend to avoid that. I know it's very rare. It wasn't really argument. Discussion.
Discussion,
really.
Okay. Well, that's a debate. Healthy debate.
Exactly, healthy debate. Somebody suggested that the Stormers are the worst coached team in Super Rugby. And I went, you've got to be kidding, mate. Have you seen the Sharks play? And basically, it was a discussion kind of like, who is worse? Who's the worst coach side? The Sharks or the Stormers? Because they both have some really, really talented players.
Yeah.
Which means if they click, they'll blow anybody away.
Yeah.
The problem is, if you're badly coached,
you
don't click very often.
Yeah. Well, it's just it's a random nature of how everybody's mood is on the day, and as to whether you click or not. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with the coach at all. Then.
Exactly. So those two sides basically have got talented players and are some of the most talented squads in Super Rugby, but are so poorly coached that if they lose the ball defensively, they're a mess. Okay, they just
and that's a good point actually. It's like on attack they can have a modicum of success or look okay, they can, but on defence you got no coaching happening. They got no clue who's doing what.
Yeah. So they're disconnected. You can see big holes in their defensive line. I mean, the Sharks ripped the Lions absolutely to pieces. They were absolutely fantastic that day.
Yeah.
That's because the Lions didn't see any of the ball. Basically, the Sharks butchered like three or four tries before in the first 20 minutes. And they still went on to score 40-odd points. They should have scored 60 to 80 points in that game, but they butchered so many opportunities. So so poor coaching means basically sometimes the talent's going to overcome the poor coaching, but a lot of time it's not. So that's part of it. The Box, just like the All Blacks and the Wallabies, have got rest protocols, and so again,
randomness.
That adds randomness to it all, because suddenly, a bit like the Bulls versus the Jaguares, suddenly they rest 4 or 5 Springboks, and that team ain't quite so good no more, and they're going to lose. So those are two of the factors that are in there. Another one, the South African teams just don't travel well, so some of their travelling. The Stormers Stormers rebels.
Yeah,
they've lost 3 on the trot on tour.
Yeah,
they decide to rest their captain, the Springboks captain, and then they go win.
Yep. Oh, hang on. Let's back the truck up here. Beep, beep, beep. You just mentioned the Lions getting smashed by the Sharks, and then they go tip up the Chiefs, who are starting to build momentum.
Yeah.
So it's all over the place.
Well, that one. I've got to read. I've got two theories for.
Yep.
That game. One, Whiteley was back.
Yeah.
And Quagga Smith. Now that is a lot of leadership and skill
coming back
into that pack.
Yep.
Secondly, they announced a team that looked nothing like the team that actually took the pitch. Marks was on the bench on the original announced list.
Malcolm
Marks. Yep. Elton Yankees was on the bench according to the
team list.
The team list. Come match day, they're both running out there. Now, Rugby Numbers on Twitter, who a good statistician out of Wellington, he has a system called ACE, which takes the 2 teams
and the percentages and all that,
and compares them player for player.
Yeah.
So it's not just how these teams performed over the last 10 weeks, whatever. It's how do those players contribute to winning games.
Yeah.
And he ran it with the announced list, and then he ran it with the lists of the teams who actually ran out. And the difference of the result flipped from being a Chiefs win to a Lions win.
Wow. So effectively, he predicted the Lions win.
Effectively, he predicted the Lions win, but he did it after the game when he actually
right. Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
It was using the numbers he would have used anyway before the game.
No, I get that. No. But he.
Unfortunately, because it happened, he wasn't until like halfway through the game. He's like, hang on a second, that's not the announced list.
Yeah.
He ran the numbers, and yes, he would have had the foresight. Unfortunately, Ace would have picked up that. So there were 2 things that happened there. So yeah, the Chiefs prepared for the wrong team, and it was a better team anyway than normal for the Lions. So interesting one going on there. Crusaders Lions. Now I tell you, if the Lions win that one, then basically just pack up shop, and I'm just going to shut down my website, because it's just there's no point me doing picks. Really, there is no point whatsoever. So if the Lions win this weekend, I'll delete my website, because it's a waste of time. But it is a crazy league this year. The other thing is, anything else around South Africa in particular?
Well, no, I don't think it's permeating across the competition a bit as well, in terms of what with the 2 results we talked about, the Stormers and the Rebels, and then the Lions and the Chiefs.
Well, those results involve African teams, so they were listed in there.
But what we weren't seeing teams outside of the South African conference being involved in this whole topsy-turvy nature of it. But now they have, even though it's, as you say, it's still South African teams involved, but it's also, the black hole is starting to pull in the other teams into it as well.
Yeah. The teams have reached the event horizon. It's all over. Looking at the table, effectively, we've got the Cruisers on the Cruisers. Well, the Crusaders are cruising. Have on 34 points. At the top of the table, comfortably clear. You've then got the Hurricanes on 27 points. which is obviously they got the top wildcard place. And then it just gets absolutely
Congested.
nuts. We go from the Rebels on 24 in basically, well, officially second place, but kind of the third best team. Rebels on 24 points down to the Chiefs, who are the 14th best team on 17 points, i.e. 7 points separate second from 14th.
Yep. And I suppose the biggest thing that you see from a table like that is that you're going to see big movement from weekend to weekend as teams tip up each other.
The only team that's really out of it is the Sunwolves,
right?
Who are 6 points adrift at the bottom. But you've got, I say, Chiefs on 17, Reds and Highlanders on 18, Jaguares, Stormers, Brumbies on 19, Blues and Waratahs on 20. Then there's a big gap of 20. There's no one's on 21 points, and then on 22 points you've got the Lions, Sharks, and then you've got the Bulls on 23, and the Rebels on 24. It is
So, look, I've been out, as I said, I've been out of actually total internet connection world. So I didn't have Wi-Fi. It was crap where we were staying, and we didn't have cell phone coverage either. So that was crap as well. And
New Zealand's a first world country. Folks.
Yeah, exactly. The Rebels played Waratahs on the weekend, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Waratahs played Rebels, so it was in Sydney.
So who won that one? Sorry. So I haven't even caught up. I got home today.
So the Rebels were leading at half time.
Yep.
And then Foley scored 10 unanswered points.
Right.
To win the game.
Okay. Sort of a try and the boot, or
yeah, try. Yeah. Well, I think was it a try and 2 penalties or a try and a penalty? So 10 or 13 points.
No, the reason I say that is because I mean, like that we before the season started, that the Rebels squad was actually a very good squad.
Yep.
And it still is. Definitely, it still is. And there's actually they've had injured players that have actually come back, so to make the squad even stronger. But they're not consistently putting that performance out on the field, are they? And now they've had a loss at home to the Stormers the previous week, and a loss to the Waratahs, who they really should have beaten. And you look at those sorts of results, and whereas the Rebels should have been well ahead at the top of the Australian Conference table, they're effectively mid-pack in terms of overall. Even though they're
second in the table.
Yeah.
So the Rebels second in the table with 5 wins and 4 losses.
Yep.
Sorry? That's practically a 50-50.
Yeah. So you got 50-50 in second place.
50-50, yeah. Only, obviously, the Crusaders, 7 wins, that cancelled game, so a draw and a loss.
Which they would have lost that cancelled game. Let's face it.
Right. Anyway.
What was that noise?
I don't know, but me spitting out my beer all over the microphone. The Hurricanes have won 6, drawn 1, lost 2. Everybody else has won 5, lost 4, or worse. I mean, that's just everyone else basically has a 50-50 record apart from those 2 teams.
Yeah.
And we're saying that the Hurricanes aren't performing very well, aren't we?
We're pretty much consistently saying that.
A lot of us saying, yeah, look, the Canes looking a bit dodgy.
The forward pack is weak.
The forward pack's a bit light.
Yeah.
They're not a strong force. They've only lost to the Crusaders. I mean, their 2 losses have been to the Crusaders.
Both losses, yeah.
To be fair, I think all their wins bar 1 have been by single points.
Right.
So they've given
within 7.
So the opposition have picked up a lot of losing bonus points against the Hurricanes, but they've got the wins. They've got the results, which
they're jammy.
They're, as Tom Watson said, the more I practice, the luckier I get. Yeah, you make your own luck, folks.
They're jammy.
They're not. Yes, they might be jammy, but they're jammy because they know how to be jammy.
Well, you look at how they score their tries, and it's just like, they're jammy. I mean, we talk about the Stormers. Look, I use this line quite a bit because it's a fair line to use. If you look at that Stormers game, the Hurricane Stormers game, and 10 minutes to go, 70 minutes of the game, the Stormers rolling more from line out is a piece of art. And,
Yes.
and it works. Bang, 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 bang.
But to
In the
be
last
fair,
10 minutes...
The only thing that was art about them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The only thing that was out about them in the game. And then in the last 10 minutes, they can't get the line out functioning even. And it's just like, that's what... If they had one of those line outs function, they win the game.
Yep.
The Hurricanes are jammy.
Oh, dearie me. The Hurricanes are jammy. Well, we'll see.
That could be the name of a show. Episode 86, The Hurricanes are jammy.
Well, let's see how they go this weekend.
Yep.
So talking about this weekend, we have the Hurricanes hosting the Chiefs. Now, if you are in Hamilton...
In Hamilton? Oh, right, yes, in Hamilton, yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That city...
Yep.
In the...
You drive through on the way south anywhere from Auckland.
That's right. If you happen to be there, there's only one place to go on Saturday night, and that is...
Sky City.
Sky City, the Zone
Riverside.
Bar. The Zone Bar in Sky City, Riverside, exactly. Because I will be there with probably the sick Stephen, as long as he's not sick. Still.
Yep. Take that vitamin C, Steve.
Yeah, Steve, please get healthy, get well. We'll be there giving you pre-match, giving you our pre-match show. We'll be back on at half-time to fill in where those horrible adverts are. And then we will be giving you post-match reaction as well. So come and join us, come watch the game with us in the Zone Sports Bar. It's free entry, and you can buy me a beer if you like. You don't have to, honest, but but it would be nice.
And a little Paul drinks.
And little Paul drinks, yes. And little Paul gets drunk very quickly because he's not eaten recently. Oh dear. So come on down there, that should be a good laugh. I'll also be live after on YouTube after the Friday night game, which is the Crusaders versus the Lions, and I'll also be live on Sunday because we have the Haguaris at home against the Brumbies. So that's a nice 9:40 a.m. kickoff.
9:40. I like that 9:40.
Yeah, over
when
breakfast.
When it starts to get to that 10 o'clock space, ruins your Sunday.
Well, hey, not for me. But hey, then again, I've not got. I don't generally have the kids, so it's all good. But so yeah, that 9:40 kickoff on Sunday. So about 11:40, I'll be going live with the whole post match reaction show there as well. So join me for those basically. That's this weekend covered off, I think. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Well,
so back to the Hurricanes Chiefs game, I suppose, and the fact is that that's an interesting one because the Chiefs.
Jammy?
Well, the other way Hurricanes going to be jammy, and the fact is that obviously with the Chiefs, they had their first game without Damian McKenzie, didn't go too well for them. Not that I saw it again, but just saw the result.
Yeah, and let's be honest, although they got blown away by the Lions. Now, didn't help that Nathan Harris was injured, as was Brody Retallick. So they're missing both of those. Plus Dane McKenzie, obviously Sam Cane isn't back either. So that's a lot of players missing from the Chiefs, as in first choice leadership players. We've also they've also got a whole bunch of other players injured as well, or they've lost them. They're down to basically two fly halves now. So they've either got Martin McKenzie and Debrasini.
Beaver.
Oh, sorry, and Beaver. Yes. Sorry, yeah, that's true. And because of injuries at fullback, that meant that they're bellying both of them. So Debrasini has to start at fullback because there's no one else to start there.
Some good options around the field though, right? In terms of you've got Marty McKenzie's just been tied up in that ruck over there. Debrasini can drop into first five and be proficient in playing that role, not just a random that's turned up in the first five position.
True, but we are talking about a team that started off the season and trained to have Damien McKenzie at 9, Sean Wainui at 15.
Wait. Damien McKenzie at 9?
Sorry, Damien McKenzie at 10.
10, yeah.
Sean Wainui at 15.
Yeah.
Now, to go from that dynamic of two attacking players, not really strategic kickers, but two real dynamic runners, to a Martin McKenzie, Debrasini 10-15 combination is chalk and cheese. We have two players there who are very much more about running a game, about kicking, not about being dynamic runners. And yeah, it's the Chiefs are basically having to rip up their entire playbook and start again.
Yeah. No, they're going to struggle big time against the Hurricanes. I don't think the Hurricanes will have to be jammy this week.
No.
So,
as I say, the Chiefs did get that draw against Hurricanes.
Yeah.
In Hamilton 5-6 weeks ago. Anyway, but yeah, I think the Hurricanes will come out and pick up another win after that. So we'll see how that one pans out. I mean, I've already put my neck on the line around the Lions, the Crusaders Lions game.
Are you picking the Lions?
No. Yeah, I'm running out of things to say, to be honest.
Oh, look, well, I was just going to say, so we've got the Lions, can they back up against the Crusaders, and what can they do? I mean, we have to have a look at who's going to be the front row. I still I still stick to the theory that the Crusaders are beatable when they haven't got Moody and Franks playing in the front. You can see susceptibility within their game plan when they're not there. And it's quite interesting that you think that a couple of props can have that much of an impact on a team because sure they'll start off the game, and there's no Moody or Franks. They'll start off the game with a couple of props that can hold their own. But when they do the automated swap at 50 minutes gone in the game, which everybody seems to do, you definitely notice a real big shift in the power within their game. So, I know they're a sort of a runaway freight train at the moment, cruising along, as Paul mentioned before, accidentally. So, but look, they're by, I still maintain they're by no means unbeatable if you get your own house in order. That's the thing. A lot of teams are just going there and they don't. You've got to play 80 minutes of rugby. That's the thing. You have to play 80 minutes of rugby, and they just don't. A lot of teams just don't play 80 minutes of rugby against them, and that's the problem. I mean, it'll be interesting to see with, as we mentioned, the South African conference being all over the place. They've still got to make their trip to South Africa as well.
Yeah, that's true. They do, and we'll see how. But by then, one of the things we've seen about the Crusaders is actually that they give up most of their tries in the last quarter. Why? Well, basically, as you said, the props have gone, but also the game's all over by then anyway. Most of the time,
well,
so they don't really care.
You look at this. I'm talking to somebody else as well, and they're not a Blues fan, but we were in agreement. The fact is that, and I think it might have been Paul. We've spoken about it as well. Is that experienced players have an effect on the referee.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the Crusaders Highlanders game from a couple of weeks ago, and I tweeted out at about the 60th minute, and the Crusaders were offending, penalised, no yellow card. And I tweeted out at about the 60 minute, just before the 60 minute mark, it's just like, the Highlanders will get, or the Crusaders will get a yellow card against them with 1 minute left in the game.
And they did.
And I was Nostradamus.
You were, yep.
So it's like, and that all comes down to the experienced players knowing how to talk to referees. And I think, what was the example? I think we talked about this one. Was it Delalio?
So Lawrence Delalio did called out Nigel Owens early in his career and said, he ended up lying the wrong side of the ruck. And you go, sorry, that was an accident. And so basically Nigel decided, actually, it's penalty definitely, but I was going to yellow card him, but it was an accident, so I let him off. And he got told afterwards, why didn't you yellow card him? And he explained why. And he got told, yep, you got caught out there, mate.
It was no accident.
It was no accident.
It was no accident.
But by the referee,
but who's
watching. What's it called?
The interesting thing is that you look again. That Highlanders game, the Crusaders Highlanders game, is a great example. Surely a referee's going to go after the game and go, "Crap, I need to look at how I referee against this team." Surely, but no, it'll happen again the following week. Exactly the same. The frequency of penalties that in their last 20 minutes that the Crusaders gave away, so cynical. Absolutely. Yet a yellow card with 1 minute to go. Well, what's the point of a yellow card with 1 minute to go? What's the point of a yellow card with 5 minutes to go? So, yeah. Hey, look, I suppose that's the craziest thing. So, as I said, if a team can stick with them for 80 minutes, and you got to wonder, that's the other side of it, when's a team going to work out that they have to play an 80-minute game against them?
I think they know that. It's just trying to get players to do it.
Oh, look, I mean,
there's a difference between knowing what's coming and dealing with it and being and actually, so I think that's
it's mental preparation, that then, isn't it?
Yep,
absolutely.
So we have got that. So actually, what we're saying is, and please, if you have a gambling addiction, do reach out for a gambling helpline, because bet of the week that the Crusaders will get a yellow card on
with 1 minute to go.
With 1 minute to go.
wait. And put money on this when this happens.
Hey, no, you can't put it when it happens. Well, you have to put money on it before it happens.
I'll put money on it before it happens. Is that South African rugby followers will go absolutely mental on social media, and how New Zealand teams get favouritism.
And we say no, it's not true. It's just the Crusaders.
Us
Blues know it. We never get favouritism. No. The referee's against us every single game.
Yep, absolutely.
And we tell him so or he tells him so from the stands.
Yes. So what I suppose game of the week? Game of the week, I suppose, without seeing the full list, is will be that Hurricanes Chiefs game. Just see how the Chiefs actually respond.
Yep.
They are a team that responds with adversity. They've done it in previous seasons.
So the other games this week, off the top of my head, so obviously we've got the Crusaders Lions, we've got the Hurricanes Chiefs, we've got Jaguares Brumbies. Those are the three I'll be doing post-match reactions for.
Yep.
We've got...
You said Jaguares Chiefs.
Jaguares Brumbies.
Brumbies.
I said.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Hurricanes Chiefs. We've got the Stormers versus the Bulls over in South Africa, which is a real coin flip. We have the Waratahs versus the Sharks, and we've got what's the other one? I've got blank. Is it someone's? Oh jeez, I was doing pretty well into that last game. Just quickly bring up the Tribe Sports app. So yeah, Ryan, if you're watching, there you go, little plug for you. Waratahs versus Sharks, and I missed out the Sunwolves versus the Highlanders. So yeah, the first two games are relatively easy to pick. The other four, good luck.
And I suppose on that note, we'll leave them hanging.
On that note, if you're watching the recording, somewhere now, how am I going to do this? Because I normally do this at home; it's much easier. But because it'll be something like up there is how you subscribe to the channel. Down there is how you become a supporter with Patreon, and over there are two videos. That's
me.
The artificial intelligence tells you the artificial here at YouTube says is going to is interesting for you to just click and watch them, please. Anyway, there you go. But the main thing, do become a supporter of the channel. Other than then, Little Paul gets to eat. Link down below for those in live. Cheers.
Bye.
Listen, you're ready.